What's up, everybody? This is Dylan and Ryan with Next on Deck podcast this week. We got some interesting topics to cover, including NFL free agency, why the Celtics and the Bucks are struggling, and for some reason, there are some teams saying that Zach Wilson is better than Trevor Lawrence. So
Yes,
we're
sir.
definitely going to be talking about that. But joining us today, we got the first guy coming back on the podcast besides my dad. We got Justin Lamanna coming from back home this week. How you doing,
Thank you,
Justin?
bro. Blessed to be here.
First up, we got the big news in Indy, with Carson Wentz being traded to the Colts for a third-round pick and a second-round pick that could turn into a first-round pick next year if Wentz plays 70 to 75% of the team snaps. I guess they probably heard that Andrew Luck, they were filling up his voicemail too much, and, they probably got the hint that he wasn't coming back at all. So they needed to make a move, and this is the one they made at quarterback. So, Justin, what did you think of this trade? Did you think the Eagles got enough for Wentz? Did you think this was a good move for the Colts? What are your thoughts?
I think the Colts ran away with this trade. It's not even close. I mean, they gave up practically nothing. I don't think he's going to play 70 to 75%. So giving up a second and a fifth for at least an interim starter, someone who's going to keep the team above, 500 for the next season or two, I think is solid until they can find a real replacement. I don't think he's taking them deep in a playoff run or to the Super Bowl or anything, unless maybe they sign Nick Foles. But I think it's a good move.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you. I think the Colts really took advantage of the situation here. Carson Wentz he was in a situation where he was getting most of the blame, and he wanted out. Philly tried to hold on to him because they knew his potential. They saw it a couple of years ago before he got injured. But yeah, I mean, the Colts definitely took advantage of the situation. They didn't really have to give up much, because of the contract extension. But I think Carson Wentz can really make a difference in Indy. I think he can. He has no excuses now. He's got Frank Wright back as a coach. He's got a great offensive line, good run game. If they're able to get T.Y. Hilton back, he'll have a pretty good receiving core. He won't have to throw to any practice squad guys anymore. I think the Colts really made out here. But, for the Eagles, I was a little confused. They gained some cap space back, but they have $34 million in dead cap, which is the most in the NFL. And, the Eagles need people desperately after only getting 4 wins last year. I mean, that was pretty pathetic. Ryan, what did you think of this trade?
I think the person that won this trade the most is Carson Wentz because he's going to go to a team that doesn't have to live in Philadelphia anymore. So that's, boom, already a plus. Second off, he's going to a team in which he's going to be pretty good for the first 4 weeks, and he's going to get hurt. He's going to get paid $20-some million to sit the bench while he's hurt for the rest of the season. I mean, dude's making good money for a guy who gets hurt as much as he does.
Yeah, and you know what? It's crazy. And for the Colts, they're going to pay him the same amount of money they paid Phillip Rivers last year. Yeah. So, and I mean, honestly, Wentz is not – I don't think he's even going to be able to put up the same numbers Rivers did. I mean, Rivers was surprisingly good on the Colts actually last year. I'm surprised he didn't come back for another year. I bet they were kind of begging him to so that they didn't have to put themselves in this situation. But, I think it was still a good move, by the Colts. I think Wentz just really needed a change of pace here. So, this is kind of make it or break it for Wentz. If for him to be defined as a bust or not, he's got to perform. I mean, this is already a playoff team. Great defense, great O-line, great running game. He's got no excuses now. So, we'll see how, Wentz does in Philly. But in other NFL free agency news, J.J. Watt has been released by the Texans upon his request and is gaining a lot of interest from what seems like half the teams in the NFL. Justin, where do you see J.J. Watt going here?
Well, I mean, first off, he could go anywhere. Who doesn't want a guy like that on their team? He had a pretty solid season for an older guy last year. But I have him – my top 3 are the Chiefs, Packers, Bucks. I think there's a very solid chance he takes a pay cut, goes to a contender, really bolsters the D-line. Some dark horses, I have the Steelers or the Titans. He's got the brother connection in Pittsburgh. Titans, I think, could really use a bolster on the D-line apart from Jadeveon Clowney. And then I have the Browns and Ravens seem to be making a push for him, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I just don't see him going either of those places. But, I really think he's chasing a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think he is too. I feel like he's just kind of tired because he wasted, most of his career in Houston because, he was one of the best he was the best defensive player in the NFL for a while. And I feel like he thinks his career was just kind of wasted in Houston. And, when Deshaun Watson is, asking to get out of there, he knows, it's going to shit after that. So, he knows he has to get out. But I was surprised that you said, that the Bucks could get him because, I mean, if you watching that Super Bowl, their D line looked pretty good as it is. So I don't know if I see Watt going there, but I could totally see him going to the Packers. I think that would be a great fit for him. They're obviously, a contending team, and with the Saints not really being there next year because Drew Brees is going to retire, and I'm sorry, Jameis Winston, but I don't think you can carry that Saints team. So I think the Packers are probably the top option for him. But Ryan, where do you see him going?
I think first off, this is going to revitalize him. I mean, obviously he was in a little bit of a decline the past couple of years. He's getting older, but I think this is going to jumpstart him back into the game. I think he's going to have just a breakout season this upcoming year. I see him going somewhere. My top three places right now are the Browns, Bills, and the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers just because of the brother connection, and I think the Browns and the Bills are the upcoming potential Super Bowl contenders that he sees. Obviously they weren't top of the game necessarily. I mean, the Bills were with the Browns a little behind, but he sees them both as upcoming teams that have a lot of young guys who are going to make a good Super Bowl push.
Yeah, and I feel like this is super important, honestly, for the Browns because, Olivier Vernon's a free agent. They still got Myles Garrett on the other end who, is still a great pass rusher, but, you can't, your defense needs more than one good pass rusher on that team. And so if they can't get Olivier Vernon, they have the cap space to get J.J. Watt. It's just, whether he would actually come to the Browns or not. I can't believe I'm actually, talking about J.J. Watt going to the Browns because a couple of years ago, that would have been the same as Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. But I don't know. I think Watt's going to the Steelers. I think, TJ was shoveling his driveway the other day. He's putting in the work to get JJ on the Steelers. They just have got to find the cap room to be able to sign him because, they really don't have it with Ben's enormous contract. I kind of want him to retire just so I don't know what the cap situation would be if he were to retire, but I feel like it would be easier than it is now. But all good fit. All those teams I think would be good fits for J.J. Watt. We'll see what he does in the future. But we got another big NFL free agent that is still, we don't really know where he's going to go. And that man is Dak Prescott. He's looking for a long-term deal. But the Cowboys weren't able to sign him to a long-term deal last year because they just signed Amari Cooper and Zeke to long-term deals. So, their only option was to franchise tag him, and then he had that brutal injury with his ankle, wasn't really able to prove himself in the last year. But, I mean, Justin, I think he's already proven himself enough to get that long-term deal. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, quarterback, obviously the most valuable position on the field. Mm-hmm. Looking at his 2019 stats, he had a very, very solid year, 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns. I mean, any team would be happy to have him. I have the Patriots really hoping they can bring him in. They have a chance to land some big wide receivers in this free agency, so that could be very enticing. 49ers, if they choose to get rid of Garoppolo, but I've heard from some of the players that they don't think that's going to happen. The Saints are a very low possibility, but, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's true. And, man, Jerry Jones, you just never know what he's going to do. I don't get that, man. But I don't understand why he's not calling Dak every minute of the day to try to get a deal done with him. Because if the Cowboys don't sign Dak, what are their options? Obviously, Ginger Boy can't do the work. He can't score. That offense just doesn't work with him. The Cowboys need to get Dak, but I don't think they're going to get a deal done. I just don't think they have the money.
Position to take a quarterback in this draft. depending on how it falls, they could take a Trey Lance or a Mac Jones or something. You never know.
They could. It's possible. And, I think, that will play a big part in, the decision making for the draft. You're right. Is, Prescott signing, because Cowboys, they desperately need defensive players here. They lost one of their best corners, Byron Jones, the other year, and they've got injuries with Van Ash. And, it's so tough for Dak because all the pressure's on him with the Cowboys. Like, because he's got the offense, he's got the weapons he needs, but, defense wins championships. If you don't have a good defense, you're not going to be able to play. So I feel like Dak might want to go to a team with a good defense. And you know one team has a good defense?
The Patriots?
The football team out of D.C. They got a great defense. Chase Young played pretty well this past year. They're solid. And Dak actually followed the football team on Instagram. So, that's always a hint. I'm just saying that's always a hint.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, and it's not like he's not going on offense with no weapons. He's still got Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, and they got a lot of cap space too. So they could possibly add some more weapons. And I think Marvin Jones would also be a great addition for the football team.
Hear me out.
Brian, yeah. I love when you say "hear me out."
Hear me out.
We know it's going to be great now.
First off, Dallas would be stupid not to re-sign Dak. Why take a chance on a young quarterback when you have a 2-year older than that quarterback that's already proven himself, and then you can pick up a defensive player. Second off, if Dallas makes a stupid decision, as they often do, and gets rid of Dak, Minnesota Vikings. I know it sounds weird, but picture you move Cousins out because Cousins is nothing.
Cousins is garbage.
And then you've got Dak with Dalvin Cook in the backfield throwing to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen.
That sounds good on paper.
Real quick about the Cowboys. I don't think it's a question of whether they want to sign him. I think it's a question of whether he will sign there. I don't think he will. I think he wants to play there anymore.
Yeah.
That surprises me. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the emotion he kind of, I feel like he just wouldn't want to end his career that way with that ankle injury. Maybe, I don't know, I guess he dislikes playing with the Cowboys that much.
He's going to win, and I don't think the Cowboys are going to do it in the next couple of years.
Oh, no. The Cowboys haven't done it in, when they had Roman, they haven't done it in the last 20 years. There's no way that they are going to be able to build a team around him because they haven't been able to prove it to him that they can. And I think Dak's going to go somewhere, where they already have a decent defense and they have a couple weapons because, I don't think he needs, a top 5 running back, like 3-star receiver. Okay, well, Michael Gallup's not really a star, but a pretty decent receiving core and just a shitty defense. Like, I think he just wants more than that. I think, he wants a more diverse team where all the weight isn't on his shoulders.
Yeah, you know what he does need? He needs a great defense. He needs Sony Michel. He needs Bill Belichick.
I'm sure Bill would love to have him, especially because the Patriots look like, they're going to pick Mac Jones. Well, I've seen Mac Jones or like Jalen Waddle for their first-round mock, but I'm sure Bill Belichick this late in his career doesn't really want to deal with a rookie quarterback.
Dak's not nearly white enough for the Patriots, let's be honest.
That's kind of true too. Why do you think he wanted to start Jarrett Stidham over Cam Newton?
Exactly. He's looking at Mac Jones like just white after white after white.
Oh, you're not wrong there. So we'll see where Dak goes. I think this is probably the guy I'm going to watch the closest for rumors and stuff. So very exciting there. But now we'll move into the basketball. The Celtics have been struggling a lot recently, and as a Sixers fan, I gotta love that. I love seeing the Celtics suck. It almost gives me as much joy as watching the Patriots suck. But they're currently 14-14, and in their last 5 games, they lost to the Pistons, the Wizards, and the Hawks. The Hawks are a borderline playoff team, but all pretty crappy teams. They kind of dealt with injuries all year. Their big 3 of Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, they've only played 7 games together, but are only 3-4 during those games. So Danny Ainge has already talked about how the Celtics need a new, like, kind of revamp of the team. And, I agree with him. So, Justin, what do you think the Celtics need to do to get back on track?
You know what? They always need a new revamp. The last, 5 years they've needed a new revamp. It's just been time after time deep playoff runs, and nothing really comes of it.
Mm-hmm.
But something I think has been a glaring issue is big men. They never have dominant big men. They need someone who can eat up boards, not just, I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are great, but you need someone who can get in the paint, be physical. They need a true big man.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Like, the Celtics for so many years had Daniel Tice as their starting center, and, a playoff team, that's just not going to cut it. When you got guys like Giannis, Embiid, Bam, all in your conference, they're just going to out-dominate you, outpower you. So I totally agree with you. I think the Celtics do need a big man, and I think Andre Drummond is probably their best option. And, he's not going to be that tough to acquire either. So I think Andre Drummond is the fix to the Celtics team because, with everything else, Tatum and Brown are a great duo together. Kemba is really good at creating shots for people, playmaking. Marcus Smart coming off the bench defensively. They just need more depth. They need more bench players. And, having Tristan Thompson come off the bench for them will be really good because, he's one of the best offensive rebounders in the game. But the Celtics have got to get a big man or just another piece. I don't really know what to do with this team. I mean, it's just kind of weird. Ryan, what do you think?
I think it's the biggest thing is coming down to the bench. I mean, obviously you got to make some of those, starting positions because you can't rely on your bench to win games.
Mm-hmm.
But they just have nothing going on. I mean, when you have Tatum and Brown out there, they're outscoring. I saw a stat like 8.9 to 1, and then as soon as one of them gets off, they're just getting dominated. Like you have to have somebody who can at least hold people back. I mean, obviously they're not going to put up numbers like Tatum and Brown are. That's why they're on the bench. But they got to do something to at least slow them down. The bench just isn't cutting it right now.
Yeah, and I feel like, the loss of Brad Wanamaker is, I think, a bigger dent in their, system than they thought. Because, he was a very underrated option. But, without him, besides Marcus Smart, no one can really score off of the bench. They don't really have any guys that can create shots. And, again, with, the Sixers, the Heat, those teams having good benches, they're not going to be able to – this is the reason why they're not able to compete in the playoffs. Because they don't have good bench scoring. So, they really need to go after some bench guys. Like I could see them going off after, maybe Austin Rivers, David Bertans on the Wizards, although he's playing out of his mind right now, so he might be a little, too expensive to get. But yeah, the Celtics, they got to get a big man. I don't see any other way that they're going to win. I mean, there's just too many contenders that they can't really compete with without a big man. So, but speaking of Eastern Conference teams that are struggling, the Bucks are also off to a really slow start. They're currently at a record of 16-13, and at this time last year they were 25-4. So, big difference there. They've just been very inconsistent. So, Justin, what can the Bucks do? I feel like their situation might be a little more complicated than the Celtics, but what do they need to do to get back on track?
Well, first off, I think developing chemistry is huge. I mean, it's Drew Holiday's first season. Bobby Portis just came on. They're having decent seasons, but I think it really takes time to develop that kind of chemistry for a championship squad. And they have a lot of rotation at guard, like an unbelievable amount of rotation at guard. They have Holiday, DiVincenzo, Forbes, Middleton, and I think they need some more depth at a big man position. I mean, Giannis is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he can do it all. I think, and Brook Lopez is good too, but I think you need someone coming off who can get behind them and replace them.
Yeah, and, that's a good point. Bobby Portis has been a solid option for them off the bench, but, bench-wise, that's kind of it. I guess, they're similar to the Celtics in the way that they need bench guys that, can come off and, make plays. I don't know what they're going to do because they're not usually a good playoff team because my feeling is the only way for them to get to the finals is to have a high seed, get the home court advantage, and then go through that way. But, looking at it, they might not get the top 3 seeds. So Ryan, I mean, what do you think they need to do?
I think they actually are in a better position than it looks, solely because I think this team has the chemistry behind them. They just haven't figured it out yet. I think this is a really strong looking team, and this may be the first year which they are a playoff team. Like once they get there, they actually push as a solid playoff team because that chemistry will have built by then. I think they're getting there quickly, but right now it looks bad, but I think they're going to be playing really well come the playoff time. And I mean, right now the Eastern Conference isn't putting up crazy numbers, so they can play mediocre and still maybe eke into the playoffs and not be as concerned there. And I think a lot of it is coming down to the defense. I think the chemistry on defense is poor. I mean, this is the worst the Bucs defense has looked in a few years. They're usually pretty well known for their defense, and this year just hasn't been it. I think that's a big difference maker.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Giannis might just be kind of drained at this point because, I feel like, all NBA players are kind of feeling that because, they're playing more games in a shorter span, than they're used to. So, the defense is going to take a hit. Huh?
I think the fan factor is huge. The home
yeah.
Having your fans cheering you on, and that's not there. I think that's huge for
Oh,
morale.
yeah, and for sure, and especially because Giannis obviously, you've seen him play. He feeds off that energy, and Embiid's the same kind of player, and that's why players, that's why the Bucs are just worse on the road. They just without that energy at home, they're kind of just like I don't want to say a mediocre team, but they kind of look like one, without the fans behind them. So the Bucs have got to do something. It seems like they're similar to the Celtics where, they get in the playoffs, they get a high seed, and, they go out, they win one round, and then they lose. So something's got to change. They've got to become a better playoff team, have to have more options than just, Giannis. And, Middleton's good, but he's, he can't help out Giannis as much as they need him to. So we're going to see what the Bucs do. Hopefully, they can get a guy in free agency to help them, off the bench, but, we'll see. So our last topic today, we'll go into some college football. Trevor Lawrence has been, without a doubt, in my opinion, the best player in college football the past couple of years and should be the, number one pick. The Jacks should take him at number one no matter what. But Zach Wilson has been lately getting some buzz around him, and many teams are actually ranking him higher than Trevor Lawrence. Justin, do you understand why this is happening? Do you think Zach Wilson is better than Trevor Lawrence?
I definitely don't think he's better. I think a lot of it has to do with draft fatigue. You see mock drafts time after time, and there's no question that Trevor Lawrence is going number one. Trevor Lawrence is by far the better quarterback. He's had about as good of a college career as you can get. He's put up every stat. He's won championships. He's phenomenal. And I get it. I think Zach Wilson is very talented. I think he could have a very good NFL career. I think he made a lot of 50-50 throws that you don't usually see in college. But I definitely don't think he should be ranked over Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I agree with you here. And, I hate now the fact that, Zach Wilson, he really only had one. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was an unbelievable year. But he really only had one good year. If you look at his stats from last year, he had a 62% completion percentage, which, is still pretty good for, college quarterback. He had 2,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. That's pretty terrible for, a number 2 overall pick. Now this year, he obviously had his outstanding year of, 73% completion percentage, 3,600 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I mean, that's real good and everything, but he plays for, BYU. They don't have, the stiffest competition. And, without the crowds, I feel like the defense just don't play as well. They don't have the same drive. They don't have the same energy, to keep up with the offense every play. So I think Zach Wilson is overrated. I wouldn't even consider him the second best quarterback in this draft. I don't see how people are ranking him above Trevor Lawrence.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. Let me tell you why Zach Wilson is the best quarterback in this draft. Okay. First off,
wait. I thought you were just going to tell me I was wrong about him not being the second best.
no.
Let
Let me tell you about how he's the best.
Oh, okay. I'm listening.
Okay?
I'm listening.
First off, on this whole only one good year bullshit, show me Burrow's good second year, okay? He went first in the draft, huh?
Okay, but he put up look, that LSU team. Yeah. I mean, that LSU team was one of the greatest single college football teams of all time. That is a totally different story. I mean, I'm pretty sure he threw like 50 touchdowns. Like, I mean, that's just on a whole nother level. And he went to LSU. You know, it wasn't BYU is a decent school, but they don't have the same competition as LSU.
Okay, I'll give you the competition thing, but in the same sense, he's playing on one of those teams. Who is BYU's receivers that are making these big time routes? I mean, yeah.
I couldn't name one.
Exactly. Every ball's a 50-50 ball when you're playing for BYU. Everyone's covered. No one's good. He's making those balls at 73% completion percentage. That's how the NFL works. In the NFL, you don't have these deep balls where you just throw it as far as you can and some dude runs under it with a 7-yard gap. He's putting up these numbers against stiff competition because his own players aren't good. It's the same competition rating.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just hate the 1-year wonders because guess who was also a 1-year wonder and went second overall in the draft? Does anybody know? Mitchell Trubisky. He's garbage now. He had one good year at a subpar school. He had a good year at North Carolina, and people are like, oh, he's the guy now. He can change the Bears. He's gonna,
look, man,
he's gonna get us out of this Jay Cutler era crap. Like, he's gonna lead us to a championship. Look what happened there.
That's what I love about the draft.
Huh?
That's what I like about the draft, man. You never know what's gonna happen. It could be a total bust, but I think Zach Wilson is very talented. I think he has a great arm.
Number one overall.
I don't think he's better than Trevor Lawrence, but I think there's been some character issues. There was a report that no one from the team showed up to his birthday party, which, I mean, sure, you can blame it on the pandemic, but Trevor Lawrence was
a dick. How's that his fault?
Hey, look, it's just look. Have you seen the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner and the Browns? That's the exact same. It's Bo Callahan. It's Bo Callahan all over again. He's gonna be a bust.
No way.
I don't think he's gonna be a bust. I think
he's got big dick energy. He can't be a bust.
Yeah, true.
Trevor Lawrence gets told he has a big dick. Zach Wilson's got to figure it out himself. He figured out his big dick.
I mean, I don't think Trevor Lawrence needs to be told that.
Oh, he needs to be told. He needs to be. He's a big. They'd have to tell him. Zach Wilson knows. He puts it out there. He slams the hammer down. Every time.
Anyway, back to what I was talking about. An NFC scouting coordinator came out. He remained anonymous, so it could be draft politics. You never know. But he said, "Rich kid who is an entitled brat, not a leader, selfish, and a know-it-all," which is never something you want to hear about a guy you're going to draft. You need chemistry to win. And if he can't do that, there's been reports of him having issues on BYU, and if that transcends to the NFL, he could have some serious issues.
Yeah, and especially when he's projected to go on a team like the Jets, probably. He's got to have that attitude where I'm going to work hard. This is my team. I'm going to lead. It can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go out and do my own thing. I know what I'm doing. He's got to be a team player in the NFL. He's just not a good enough quarterback. Well, I guess we'll see when he gets in the NFL, but I don't think he's NFL ready enough to already, be Mr. Tom Brady. I can do whatever I want kind of thing. So Ryan, I'm still baffled that you really think Zach Wilson is better than Trevor Lawrence.
Oh yeah, any day. Mamba mentality. I can see.
Lawrence he's probably had one of the best college careers of all time.
Lawrence has been nothing since.
He's a once-in-a-generation type quarterback.
He peaked freshman
and you're
year.
really going to say that this BYU boy is better than him?
He's Andrew Luck in this shit. Yeah, Andrew Luck looked good in college, but how many Super Bowl rings has he got?
Yeah, but Andrew Luck was a 4-time Pro Bowler out of like the 6 years he played. He was still insane.
And now he's gone.
And now he's
So
gone.
I just got to know, while we're on the topic, what are your guys' top quarterbacks in the draft? Who do you think's overrated? Underrated? What do you guys
I think
Underrated.
Justin Fields is overrated.
I could see that. I think he could be solid.
I don't think he's going to be a bad quarterback. I just think he's overrated.
Yeah,
I can see that.
it seems like Ohio State quarterbacks haven't had the best, translation, to the
Yeah.
NFL. I think it's going to help him a lot, because it seems like the Falcons are supposed to, take him. But I mean, if Zach Wilson drops there, I definitely see the Falcons probably taking Zach Wilson over
I
Justin
would love
Fields.
to see him in the Falcons. I think he'd be great in a Falcons jersey. I think he'd fit in that offense
Yeah.
very well. But
And- Yeah, especially because he's still going to have. I mean, my guess is that Matt Ryan's going to play one more year, and he can just have, be under the supervision of Matt Ryan, which, not a bad quarterback to be supervised by.
yeah. And another guy. First off, I think Trey Lance is overrated, but
Yeah.
I think Mac Jones is someone who's going to have a very solid, if not very good, NFL career.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Coming
feel
out
like
of the program.
it's just kind of tough for him because he's not really a mobile quarterback, and in this new generation of, mobile quarterbacks, he might struggle a little bit.
Who won the
But,
Super
you know,
Bowl
not-
this year, Dylan? What quarterback won the Super Bowl this year?
Look, Brady's different. So you're saying Mac Jones is Tom Brady? Is that what you're saying?
Dylan, let me combat that. Look, I love mobile quarterbacks. I love watching Lamar Jackson. He's so fun to watch. But mobile quarterbacks in the NFL, dude, where everyone's a stud athlete, you have 2 to 5 years of being great before the treads fall off that wheel.
I mean, I'm not saying like, look, I'm not mobile. Maybe I'm not talking to the extreme where we're talking about Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson. I'm just talking to a guy like, Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. I
Okay.
consider them mobile quarterbacks that can just create space in the pocket, can run for a first down if they have to, but, they're not rushing like 16, 17 times a game.
Yeah, I can see
I think
that,
Mac
but-
Jones, he just doesn't move in the pocket. He doesn't. I mean,
But he-
Alabama just had.
reads. He makes great, quick reads. And I think the NFL is based around pocket passers, pro-style quarterbacks. And I think he's going to have a very good career.
I just don't know if it's the Alabama system or if it's Mac Jones that's, making him look so good.
Well, it's always the Alabama system. They're always fantastic. But I think he's
Yeah.
very – and, while we're on the topic, I think there's a very good chance he goes to Pittsburgh. Where the 25th pick, I think there's a very good chance he falls there, and you're looking for a replacement in the next year or two.
Yeah,
Big Ben, too.
yeah. Ryan and I, we're really hoping the Steelers pick Najee Harris there. We've been Najee Harris fans for ever since we realized that we could actually attain him, and that Connor wasn't coming back. Thank God.
He's a fantastic guy. It's crazy.
Finally.
It's crazy that Alabama has 4 first-rounders this year.
Their offense was explosive. So, Justin, I actually wanted to ask, who do you think is the better receiver in this draft? Do you think – because I've seen Jamar Chase go higher than Devonta Smith. I've seen Devonta Smith go higher than Jamar Chase. What are your thoughts there? Who do you think is the better receiver in this draft?
Well, if I had to pick one receiver who I think is the best just ball catcher in the draft, I think it's Kyle Pitts out of Florida. I think he's phenomenal. He played 3 years at Florida, hasn't dropped a single red zone pass.
Damn.
He's been fantastic. But going pure receiver, I think it's Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that Jamar Chase, even though he sat out last season, he was, second in Heisman 2 years ago? He was a great receiver. And playing with Joe Burrow, I think he's phenomenal. I think he's the number 1 true receiver in the draft.
Yeah, I got Jamar Chase number 1, but I think Waddle over Smith. I worry about Smith's size. I mean, obviously in college he was okay. He didn't have any issues, but in the NFL he's not going to be able to run guys as much as he did in college, and then he's going to be taking hits. And he's not a big guy.
Yeah. I think Waddle and Devontae Smith are very, very close. I mean, it's splitting hairs with them, but I think I just have to give a slight edge to Devontae Smith. I think they're both going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to, discredit Smith's season. I mean, he went off. And it's hard to say, if that was totally because Waddle was out for, a decent amount of it, or, if Smith would have still been able to, play at that elite of a level without him. But, I think Devonta Smith is the best receiver in this draft. And, even though he is small, I think he's going to put on some size in the NFL. I think his strength and conditioning coach is like, look, you're going to get tackled by guys like, 60, 70 more pounds than you, so you got to put on some muscle or else you're going to get hurt. So I see him, bulking up a little bit, but his route running, his speed, his hands, I think he's got the whole package to be the best receiver in this draft. And I think that either the Bengals or the Eagles should take him, but the Eagles are actually looking at Trey Lance, which I think is very weird considering they just traded Carson Wentz away. And you would think if they traded Carson Wentz away, they're like, okay, Jalen Hurts, you're our guy, lead our team, do what you got to do, whatever. But, now they're looking at other quarterbacks with their high draft pick. I feel like they have so many other needs that they need to meet.
Well, I don't think when you have that high of a pick, I don't think you ever don't take a look at quarterbacks. That could be a potential franchise changer. I don't think they go quarterback. I think they absolutely should go receiver. They need it, and especially if they're going to play Jalen Hurts, they cannot have that terrible of a wide receiving core around him. It's just going to destroy his development. And back to the Bengals, I think they absolutely have to go O-line. I would love to see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase come back, but I think Penei Sewell is absolutely going to go there. He's a phenomenal O-line, and they need it more than anything. They cannot have their franchise quarterback.
They need to protect Burrow. Yeah, he was getting beat up a lot last year, so they definitely – I mean, him or Jamar Chase would be great because, they're also probably losing A.J. Green. It's, T. Higgins – or Tyler Boyd's not really – he's good, but not really, you don't want him to be your top receiver.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, Justin, thanks for coming on. We loved having you. We had some great talks. We'll for sure have you on, like probably right before the NFL draft.
Awesome.
Talk prospects, see what changes from there, see if anyone does anything dumb on social media to drop their, ranks. But yeah, it was good to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Anytime, bud.
Later.
See ya.